Yeah, guys, it's good to see everybody. Um, excited to get to game week. I know this camp has been very good for us. There's been a fair amount of growth in the camp. You could see guys that were kind of starting the camp, looking for belief and looking for something to kind of hold on to and something to build upon. And I felt like throughout the camp, the foundations of all of it became stronger and more fortified, and feel there's a ton of growth throughout the camp. But excited for this week. I look at Albany and see a defense that's veteran in the back end and up front plays technique and tries to leverage the run game. And then you look at offensively, you see a running back that's new, that's going to be something to deal with. You look at a tight end that's a mismatch. And then I think quarterback-wise, you're probably going to see, probably more than one. And so I think all very talented. And so it gives us an opportunity to come out and really, be challenged to be at our best. I think winning at every level takes so much. It's just very difficult to do. And I think for a lot of our young people, for them to be at their best, for them to give the effort and the detail that's needed to give us a chance to win that's going to be a very strong test for them. And so excited to be in that quest with them. Take any questions you guys have.
Yeah, Dave, you mentioned team growth. As far as this game, team growth, development, any specific areas you're hoping to see come forth? Or
Yeah, I think two areas. One would be just leadership, and just guys that in the past, in the summer particularly, we would have there might be one way an old guy on the team says something, and there might be one way a young guy on the team says something. There might be one way a skill player says something. There might be another way a lineman says something. There's various other areas that all that gets into, but they're all saying the same thing. And then I think they're all at times kind of talking to their own particular little crowd. And so I think to maybe broaden that group, and to maybe be connected to others outside of maybe your unit and or locker room neighbors. I think it kind of it builds team, and I think that was really addressed throughout the end of summer and into fall camp, and I feel like we're in a good spot. But there hasn't been a bunch of stormy weather, thunder and lightning and all of it, and that's when you really kind of get to see kind of how this house was built. And so we'll see with the leadership part. I'm hoping that all the work that was done previous is for our best now. And then, for our young people, it's, how they respond. And so I think so much of it is, I think when you first start out, I can remember me too, when I first started out coaching, you want to prove yourself. You want to show that you belong and all this, and it's just such a natural thing. But, when you're older, you look at that and you just go, man, it's probably, there's going to be failure. There's going to be something, it's not going to go 100% right. So how do you respond in the moment, right? How do you rise from this particular fall? And so those are the things you're looking for. And I think, I hope that, this week, staff-wise, and this week, young person-wise, that we can really attach to that, how we rise. Because I think that's going to say a lot about kind of who we become.
Coach, you talked about the running game from Albany. Obviously, they bring in Todd Sibley from transfer from Pitt. Is that kind of the game plan heading into this week, is attacking that run game and kind of shutting that down?
Yeah, in a lot of different areas, their run game percentage, you look at last year, was 75% or higher. And so the run the ball is a huge part of what they do. And, it sets the sets the table for play action pass and other things. And so, the use of tight ends, three-man surfaces, wings, four-man surfaces. I think those are all things that we've been accustomed to, you could say, throughout spring and fall camp. And so there's some knowledge of all that. But I think being the first game of the season, there'll be some guys that'll be playing that, or at least be asserting themselves in a role they haven't asserted themselves before. I think all of those things are things. And then in terms of what is new, which we're counting on stuff being new from Albany's side, and what has to be adjusted and how that's communicated and how quickly that's adjusted, all of those things are really kind of the task within the task, for sure, in defending them.
Dave, any season is kind of a progression in terms of, trying to get better each week and stuff. Certainly we saw that last year. With that in mind, what do you most want to get out of this first game other than a win?
Identity. I think, we want to, we talked about this in the staff meet earlier today, identity, competitive maturity, and energy. I think identity, we talked about there's a jazz musician who said, jazz is simple, but simple ain't easy. And it would be great to really be good at the simple ain't easy part. And, I think there's a fair amount of teams that maybe struggle with that part, and for us to really make an impact in that area would be ideal. Then I think the competitive maturity part. So how do we handle? I think to go up, you first have to go down, and you have to kind of. I think we can define suffering as any time that you're not in control. And so what's great about football is that fair amount of us are going to not be in control of outcomes of this call or that result and all these things. And so how we handle that will have a lot to do with kind of, where our competitive maturity is. A lot to be desired from a year ago, first game. And then I think energy-wise, I think there's going to be a strong energy to start the game. But depending on where the game is, we're struggling to get in it. We're ahead of it, regardless of where it is, right? We want to be able to continue to build energy, and so that our sideline is winning the battle of sidelines, and that our team is out there performing and getting better as the game goes.
How are Craig Williams and Al Walcott coming along?
Yeah, appreciate that question. I think Craig is kind of back with us going, and so he had about a week there where he was kind of off the field and all of it, coming back from a scare with his knee, and he's been great. I think there's a calmness and there's for sure a veteran feel, a real strong maturity with him that I think attracts a lot of the guys to it, and they see kind of how he handles just all the ups and downs of just a particular day or a week just with football, and I think he's one to look out for. I'm excited about kind of his progression right now. And then Al has brings a tremendous amount of energy, and I think his leadership and his communication on the football field has really been an asset to us. With some of the losses from last year to this, those are two areas that were directly hit. And I think Al, in his own way and in his own style, kind of brings it back to the forefront for us.
Dave, I'm sure you have some nerves, butterflies as you enter into Saturday, but how have those changed from year one to this year?
No, I appreciate the question. I think, after every game you have a brand new team, but then I think, as you go into it further, really kind of after every day you have a brand new team. And so I think, looking at kind of the progression of where guys are at, and for a lot of folks, and we would want to not be in this category, but for a lot of folks, like a day like today is like as good as it gets because the wins and losses come, which now forces, now it's me versus you. Now it's, I have to prove this. I have to win for this. I have to, it just becomes kind of a, what was once connected and was once awfully hopeful and what was once looked at as maybe a journey for self-growth and connection is now looked at as, hey, we need to win, and if you ain't winning, get the hell in the back. And so that can happen fast. And so I think in just seeing kind of the energy of the team and kind of where that is, and I think, coaches, I think there's a fair amount of control that coaches can have over X's and O's, and it's quite common to lay the, if something didn't work out, well, the player this, the player that, and so just really getting into those things prior to them becoming a thing is probably the difference that I see now as opposed to before.
Coach, have you guys felt the extra attention, the extra eyes on the program coming into this year? And if so, how do you feel like the team is handling it?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I have not felt it. I think anytime we're in meetings or anytime that we're out in the practice field, it's been way intentional. And it's been, so we had a scrimmage a mock game on Saturday, and a fair amount of it was, hey, this is how pregame works, or this is how the bear walk works, this is how pregame works, this is where you are, and this is your locker, right? This is how, the tight ends go out and the D linemen go out. This is the stretch we do, right? This is the pregame individual your position coach does, right? This is how, if you're on defense when the offense is out, this is how this is going to work. Your coach is going to talk to you and make sure you hydrate, all that stuff. And so there was that, but there was also, it was a scrimmage. And so we had 12 guys over 20 miles per hour on Saturday, which has never happened since I've been here. And so, we really kind of made that a point to try to get that. And so, to be on point with all, because some of it can feel like you're taking a museum tour. Of like, hey, this is this, look at that. This is this, look at that. Look at this, it will be like this next week. But then to kind of flip the switch and then go fast, and we would say play green and do all of that, way cool, man. And so I don't know, it's been like that, I guess, And then even when you're in the, if you're here at the bank or if you're in between the locker room, there has been a focus of it. But, I certainly see it and am aware of it, and I'm sure, they are too. But I think there's been a good focus and a good connection with their team to not get outside the lines with it.
Coach, in terms of running back and receiver, where there's a lot of guys who might get their first significant college game action on Saturday, in a perfect world for you, how deep do you go into the depth chart at those positions to get as many guys looks as possible?
No, appreciate that. Yeah, I think the number one thing for us is to put our identity out, to play with some great competitive maturity, to have really strong energy, and in doing those things, hope that we get the result that we want. And so whatever it takes for that would be the ideal. And then anything after that, right? Any opportunity we can have to get guys work when they deserved work is always strong. But I'm really not thinking that way going into this, thinking that, this is a brand new team. We have ideals and we have values that we would love for this team to identify with, but this team ain't done anything yet. And so we're going to be tested on Saturday, and let's see where that is.
Dave, from that first scrimmage, how have you seen the running game develop, and maybe have you seen some guys kind of emerge?
I thought in the second scrimmage, there's a lot of positive from Tay. And then Quaylen, too. There's a couple runs with Quaylen. He's put his shoulder down and finished and fell forward and that. And so there has been improvement. And, I think I think that that position room, I would still say, probably has the most to improve. But from where they were in the start of fall to now, the first game of the season, I think they've improved the most. And so excited about that progression.
We
Dave,
named
what have you
Shaven
seen
early
from
on as QB1.
Uh-huh.
We spoke with Gavin last week, and he said that, you know, you're kind of leading Gavin Holmes and Blake to kind of become more vocal leaders because they've both been guys who typically lead by actions. Have you seen them progress to a point where you're confident in their vocal ability moving into this first game?
Appreciate that. Yeah, both. So it's, I think it's what's cool about all of that is that when a guy's ready, he's ready, you know, and there's something about just kind of the rhyme or the flow of the year and the seasons, you know, where you get into spring, and I think guys kind of feel the need to assert themselves a little bit, and then you get into summer and it's pretty strong, and then you get into fall camp, and it's almost like anytime they're away from you, you know, they when guys come back, it almost like it kind of crystallizes for them. They need to like not see your face and hear you for a while, and then it kind of crystallizes. And I thought like when it came back from break for fall, they had about a week off. It was that way for those two in particular, and it's been really good. I think there's times, you know, there's been practices where maybe it's not been to what it should be, and Blake calls them up. Or receiver-wise, you know, the detail and the level of focus that we need to have is not on point, and Gavin's talking and doing all of it. Because I think, you know, for someone that's not a talker to become a talker, you always got to be careful with that, because you want it to be authentic and you want it to be real. And so you kind of just continue to try to get them to feel that, hey, man, whether you're a talker or not, right, you're a huge part of this team, and people look up to you in that. And then when they feel like both feet are on the ground and they feel like, you know, there's love for them no matter what, that voice kind of comes. So it's cool for those two. Yeah, excited for the leadership they can bring.
Dave, you've obviously got a veteran offensive line. Jacob Gall's been a big part of that. What have you seen from him as far as his development and what he's meant to that line?
Appreciate that. I think anytime, you know, you have a transfer, there's always a tendency, and I think this is natural. And I think this, you know, this shows in coaches too. When there's when there's a kind of a revolving door of coaches, you get to where, you know, you're always looking for the big picture to kind of coalesce, but then, you know, that individual coach wants to assert himself, that player wants to assert himself, and so it just creates a thing within the thing. And that's kind of been Jake's journey a little bit. And so I think last year, you know, really kind of finding his flow within all the stuff that we're doing, and, you know, being a critical part in it, and never pulling away from it, but just kind of, you know, kind of finding his footing, pretty different from what it's been for him in the past. And so then in, you know, having another year, it's now, hey, there's a need. Hey, there's a similar to what we're talking about with Blake and Gavin. Hey, there's an opportunity, but they have to kind of feel right to take that step and be a leader. And, you know, I think, you know, everyone's looking for likes. It's hard to hold other people accountable, you know, looking to see what's on their phone in terms of how many hearts and likes they got and all this other thing. And so to say stuff that's not in that, you know, that's not in that tone can be difficult. You have to kind of get to that point. And I feel Jake is there. And, you know, the O-line progression from where it was in spring, right, and then to where it is now, I think he has a lot to do with it. So I feel good about the leadership there. I really feel good about his transformation.
Dave, How much, if any, have you guys been able to, as coaches, been able to watch the Baylor dudes in the NFL preseason at all?
Yeah, so it's a good question. We watch, so every Monday we have a little, in our team meeting, we have a little kind of NFL intro song, and we've kind of taken over a logo that the NFL uses, and it's green and gold, and it's Bears in the NFL, and we show highlights from guys that they've done. And so, just here in a couple hours, we'll look at PD at tackle for loss and Terrell at tackle for loss off a blitz, and so there's been various others. It's really cool, I think, for guys to be able to see, for those two in particular, I think always strong, real dreams. And, I think probably in the quiet of their own room, they would maybe whisper that that's what they wanted to do. But, the more we can get guys to say, hey, man, he did it. This is how he did it. I can do it. Pretty cool.
Coach, in terms of that first Friday night when instead of a mock game or a scrimmage, there's a regular season game, what for you is maybe different in terms of your emotions, how you're feeling, everything that kind of goes into that internal stuff that first Friday night?
Yeah, I think, so football, a game of random events and setbacks. And we kind of talked about, not being able to control all the aspects of the, everything we would like to control. And so it's like, how do we respond, And I think along with that, is being fully present and fully alive in an imperfect reality, man. Can you still be authentic, right? Can you still be an artist of this craft when it's like stuff's falling down beside you, or this call didn't come through, or so-and-so missed a block here, or so-and-so, lost contain there, right? Can you still kind of hold on to you and not, we talk about like red light and yellow light. The red light is kind of the breaking off point. The yellow light is now the mechanical man. Can you just play green and go? And so, there was guys last year that did that. And it's inspiring when you see that, And so I think, who are the guys this year? Who are the coaches that now when the stress level comes, right, can get their fists from clenched to open? That stuff's just so cool. And so it'll be, for me, it'll be kind of who are we going to become? So I'll be excited to see.
You've talked about it all fall camp, being able to throw a fastball and consistently be able to deliver that. Do you think throughout fall camp heading into week one, you guys are at that point where you can consistently do that and show that against Albany?
I hope so. I know our intent has been that. I think what it's the issue for us there is the amount of youth that we have, and then getting it to where, hey, if it ain't going on in the first quarter or the first drive, maybe, right, we can still get this going in the third quarter. We have to grind to get that done, and we got to stay locked in. And so I think, having one-on-one meetings with the guys as we go. I'm about 3/4 through, and one of the questions I ask them is, it's a fill-in-the-blank question, and it goes, what's the, it's like let it go. What's the one thing that you need to let go of for you to be at your best? And a lot of the answers are perfectionism. A lot of the answers are, which I can for sure, relate to that. And I think, for some of the veterans to kind of, you have to fully be, you can't we talk about like the fight or flight when you're humiliated, basically is what we're talking about with the failure in a thing. When you're humiliated, you kind of have to sit there with it, and see, hey, what really happened? How can I get better? And that's all a very hard thing to do, right? Especially when you think that's never going to happen to you, and the lights and the cameras and stuff. And so I think we're going to be dealing with some of that for sure. But then I think the coaches and all of our jobs is to kind of help that along. It's just, this happens to everybody. This is all part of it, right? You'll be stronger after it. And so It's one thing to say, it's another thing to do.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you guys.